Cool. All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Set the Pipe. Once again, I am Sully. There is CK, and then there's Bear, my co-host. Today, we have an iconic USA volleyball player, Olympian, Bob Samuelson. Bob, welcome to Set the Pipe.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Gentlemen.
It's fun to be here. Yeah, thanks for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Really happy to have you here, Sammy.
Good to see you.
Really, thank you for taking the time to join us and talk to us a little bit about this. We're really excited to have you. I'm gonna let Sully do his intro as he always does, and then we'll get to it.
Yeah, so Bob, this is the time you get to sit back, relax, kind of take in, and actually some of our guests are actually rather surprised when they hear all their bio because it's been a while, because now you're a father and you're kind of working and all that kind of good stuff. But today, we have Bob Samuelson, a former American volleyball player renowned for his achievements at the collegiate, international, and professional levels. In collegiate career, he played for Big Daddy at LA Pierce College, leading the team to a state title in 1986 and earning the California Junior College Player of the Year. Transferred to become a
Harvard of the West Coast. Harvard of the West Coast.
So it's Cal State Northridge. He was a two-time All-American and it set the school record with 44 kills in a match against George Mason in '89, and he was inducted into the CSUN Hall of Fame in 1994. Then he went on to the U.S. national team, played for the U.S. National team from '89 to '93, won a bronze medal at the '92 Summer Games in Barcelona, where he was a central figure in a controversial match against Japan, and we will touch on that a little bit. Also earned bronze medals in '91 FIVB World Cup and 1994 FIVB World Championships. Go on to his professional career, had an illustrious career in Japan, and led them to Japan in the V League and led them to a championship, being named the league MVP in his first season. Briefly played beach volleyball in '94 and again from '04 to '06. Had some coaching stints, Austin Junior Volleyball, and then Vegas United and MB Surf. And he was also CSUN men's volleyball coach at an assistant coach there. Awards and honors, two-time NCAA All-American Olympic bronze medalist. And we've gone on over that. So we are privileged to have one of the iconic men's volleyball players in my lifetime, Bob Samuelson. Sammy, thanks for again coming on Set the Pipe.
Yeah, thank you guys again. It's funny hearing all those kind of just a little bit taking you back in time a little bit there. It's kind of cool to hear.
Yeah. That's good because, like I said, a lot of people are like, "Man, I did that." Holy wow, really? Well, we already know these things, but over time, it just kind of and that's why we're having you on here. We kind of want to hear those stories and stories within the stories, and also let everybody know who follows us of who you are and what you did for our sport. And I mean, you went to the top, man. And for me to be able to play against you my freshman year, and that's a whole nother story of the last match for my freshman year, being able to play you as a senior. You actually tore it up, but we're excited to have you on.
Yeah, thanks again. My knees hurt just listening to that intro, by the way. My goodness.
Mine too. You kind of touched upon it, and I just want to ask a little bit deeper onto that question is, when you hear all that, Bob, when you hear all the stuff you've done, Sammy, I've known you for so long, but how does it make you reflect? Does it make you feel great? Obviously, the bronze medal is amazing, but to hear all your accolades and what you've done in this sport, how does it make you feel?
Kind of cool, it's funny because, now I look back on those times. It seems like, and I say this all the time, as you know, CK, and you guys know, I ran like a little bit hot back when we were playing.
Sure.
And, kind of looking back and thinking back on volleyball and just thinking about all those times, it seems like almost like a completely different person. It's we grow and we mature and we have a different perspective on things, and you have kids and it's fun to look, but it seems like almost a whole separate part of my life. But it's fun to hear, and it's fun to think back. And I was just after golf, my kids and I were in the pool, and we were just cracking some stories and telling some funny Matty Younger stories, so yeah, it's kind of neat to hear and fun. Yeah.
Do your kids know? Like, do they really know about Dad Samuelson? Do they know?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It's cool because my boys played. I coached at Manhattan Beach Surf. And so they were around volleyball, and then kind of they grew up in Manhattan Beach and El Segundo, which is a pretty tight volleyball community. And they grew up with Tim Hovland, kind of, you know, was right down the street from us, and going down to the beach, and you know, Brian Ivey, who was one of my teammates, and you know, lives down there. And so, you know, just hanging out the beach and the 6-man and the 4-man tournaments. And, you know, they definitely kind of got a sense of it just growing up.
And
so,
listening
which
to
is
Geeter.
kind of cool. Right.
And having to listen to Geeter. I'm sure he tells them all the time how great you were.
Yeah. Which is funny because Magnus, my one son Magnus, is like text Geeter more like they're like best friends. And no, Geeter's flat out told me, he's like, sorry, you know, like Magnus is my favorite Sammy, no offense. But, you know, I'm like, all right. Fair enough. Mine too. So,
yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Unbelievable. Well, you know, Sammy, all the years I've known you, I got to meet you on my recruiting trip, and, you know, we've been friends ever since, and you were such a mentor when I was growing up at Northridge and playing, and we've had some fun times. You know, the big reason why we're doing this, and you've seen, you know, me sending the podcast to all us Northridge guys when we had Theo on here and a few others, is really just to kind of evangelize the sport and hopefully get the next generation to have the stories and the experiences that you had and that we had. And that's why we're doing it. So again, I'll just say it for the boys. We appreciate you coming on here and doing it. So who's the best golfer out of the 4?
Magnus. Magnus is by far the best. He actually he rolled a 75 last week. Yeah. He's been playing pretty well. Today wasn't our best effort. You know, but he and I are pretty close. We kind of, you know, we have a good competitive balance. Hunter likes to get out there, and Hunter's, he's picking it up. Jackson kind of hits the ball a ton, just doesn't play enough. You know, my stepson is really, really good. So he's a plus 7.4. He just finished up at Cal Poly. He's getting ready to embark on his kind of pro kind of career here. So he's going to Q school here in September, and I mean, he's like really, really good. Like I played, he won the Nevada AM out here the last 2 years. I went out, played a practice round from the tips, and he rolled a easy 62. So he's legit. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I love to golf, and so do the boys, and which has made Vegas kind of a nice landing spot from the South Bay, because we like to go watch games up at the casino, and and then we'll go hit the links, and so it's been it's fun getting out to go and golf with them. Yeah.
How did you end up out in Vegas, being a Southern California boy?
Yeah, so the boy's mother and I, you know, we had kind of split up, and she unfortunately passed. A little while ago, and I was trying to keep some continuity for the boys. I wanted to make sure that they kind of stayed. I just didn't want to uproot everything through. We're kind of a rough patch there, so we ended up, we were staying in the South Bay, and we're living, and it's just as you guys, it's a fortune to live there.
It sure is.
You know, especially as a single dad, and once they went off to college, I just go, look, I need to downsize a little bit and just kind of stack some chips and lick my wounds and kind of regroup a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I was looking at a bunch of different places. I was trying to look for tax-free states. I was looking at Florida and Texas, and I had known some people that had moved out here and really enjoyed it. And, you know, I'd been here a bunch, obviously, to Vegas, but never really kind of
lived there
off the strip. Exactly. Like what most people think of. And so I go, you know what? It's a sort of a soft landing. It's only a 4.5 hour drive. I'm still a member of my same golf group down there. I would go back on weekends and play, you know, 4-man down, you know, the 4-man tours and stuff. And I go, I'm just going to go check it out for a year, and I can always move back. Right. So I came out and absolutely love it. I was telling Bear that I absolutely love it out here. And, you know, people always go like, you know, like Vegas, what's it like? I'm going, I don't live in the Bellagio. You know what I mean? Like it's the same, like, you know, living in LA, people go, oh my God, LA's great. You know, I don't live on Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah. Which star do you live next to?
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, Vegas gets kind of, you know, people think of Vegas what they know of it, but man, I love it out here. It's clean, it's safe. It's you know, there's tons of great nightlife and shows and restaurants.
Those are amazing.
If you want that, but if you don't want it, go back home 20 minutes, you're in a little suburb, and we have our own little community, and it's awesome, man.
What about the readers out there? there.
Go ahead, Bear. What'd you say?
Sorry, I was just saying. Do you like that the Raiders are out there? Because I've heard mixed reviews about having the Raiders out there with the locals.
Yeah, I love having the Raiders out here. I'm excited for the A's to come. I mean, I'm a diehard Laker and Dodger fan, but and I love the Chargers from when we were training down in San Diego, and so I'll always be fans of theirs. But I'll support our local teams. I've gone to a couple Raider games and waiting for the A's to come out. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm hoping that the worst kept secret in the NBA is true, that we're getting an expansion team out here. Like I'll be
Vegas and Seattle. I think it's a no-brainer. And with what Vegas does it, and what I was going to just touch upon with you is, I love Las Vegas, and we have a couple friends, you know a few of them, but a good friend of mine that went to Northridge, just semi-retired out there, and he can't talk about how great it is enough. He can't talk about, like you just said, he loves it. He's living way away from the Strip, but you can go 20 minutes. Like I can go to 20 minutes, not to LA. It takes me forever in Orange County, but like you have so many 5-star restaurants. You can go see shows, and there's concerts every night, no matter who you want to see. Right. And but you, like you said, you're not there, you're a little bit further. So the sports there is amazing. And I really do hope they get an NBA team, because like you said, the A's are there. We'll be there soon once they're done building the stadium. The Raiders are there. The Aces are there. The hockey team, I'm forgetting the men's
Golden Knights.
The Golden Knights. There's just so much going on there. So good for you. Good for you, Sammy.
Yeah.
What, do you have anything to do with volleyball anymore? Do you do anything in regards to coaching? I know you still play, but do you coach? Do you do any talks, anything like that around the sport?
I do. I'm still coaching at a club called Vegas United here. Actually, Bear was kind enough to come out with Coach Alan a couple of weeks ago and did a clinic out here, which was awesome. And the kids loved it. And they did a great job, as they always do. They've been out at, more than a couple times. I coach over at Vegas United. I coach 17-year-old girls. I coach 17-year-old boys. I head coach for the girls team. I assistant on the boys. I try and stay involved as much as I can. And, as you guys know, you don't do that for the money. It kind of scratches a little bit of that sort of philanthropic itch, I guess, by trying to give back a little bit if you can, and impart a tiny bit of wisdom and at least make just a small difference, hopefully. It's kind of fun. So, yeah.
Awesome. Hey, so let me take you back to your playing career. So when I saw you for the first time, freshman, you were about a senior, you're a monster, absolute monster, right? And so if everybody looks at us and looks at Coley had hair at one time.
Yeah.
You didn't. And so you were this guy, massive guy with a perfectly bald head, right? And so back in the day, you didn't know, you just figured something was going on. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But as you know, Ken Stanley passed away. Right, your coach, Marv Dumpy, we had him on, said some really great things about him. Why were you that big coming out of high school and went to Pierce? Why the choice to go to Pierce? Because obviously, you had talent going to the Olympics, but tell us a little bit about how that went from high school to Pierce.
Let me give him a shout out to the Westchester Comets first. So
there we go.
Westchester Comets, baby. LA Unified.
That's right. LAUSD's finest right there. So. Yeah, which actually was pretty kind of crucial to that journey. So I didn't play volleyball until my senior year of high school, and I played about half a season at Westchester High. I was exclusively a basketball player, and I played baseball too.
Didn't Schroeder at Westchester?
Yeah, Brett Schroeder went
Schroeder. Shout out Schroeder. Go ahead, Bob. Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, it's okay. And so I was playing hoops at Westchester. Unfortunately, I was not very academically motivated at the time. And so I got recruited. We had a really good hoops team. We lost in the city championship to Crenshaw, who had a guy named John Williams, who was just a man-child. Like
one of the best to ever play in the state of California. Ever.
Yeah. And so we lost to Crenshaw. And our starting point guard at the time, he signed with Georgetown. This was when, during the heyday of Georgetown. So we had a good squad, and I got recruited a bunch of places. I was kind of planning on going to Syracuse. I needed to go to a junior college to get my grades up.
Sure.
And my coach Ed Azam at Westchester was really good friends with the coach. I forget his name now, but was really good friends with the head coach at Reseda. And the Reseda coach moved on to LA Pierce. He goes, come play for me. I went over to LA Pierce. I needed a unit there was a volleyball class with cute girls in it.
No,
I go,
kidding.
I'll take the volleyball class. Coach Ken Stanley was teaching the volleyball class and goes, you should come out and like play for us. I go,
Yeah.
okay, I'll try that. Ended up loving it. Couldn't have loved him anymore. Ended up quitting the hoops team, was not having a good time. Ken gave me a job. He gave me, he let me rent a room in his house. He gave me rides to practice. His wife, his lovely wife, Pat, cooked me meals every night.
Wow.
And yeah, so it just ended up kind of playing a couple of years at Pierce and getting better. And that's kind of how
Dude, you were the best player in the state. What do you?
Yeah. So,
Well, you know, it goes to show you, and again, we talk about this all the time, Sammy, and this is, I'm not going to digress and get into a debate over this, but like, I'm torn about the whole specialization in sports, right? Like it's understandably so and why it happens today, but look at you. What a great example. I mean, you're a basketball player. You could have went to Syracuse, had your grades been a little better.
Yeah.
And you were planning on going, and sure enough, you fell in love with the sport. But you were a multi-sport athlete, and that makes a difference. And, you know, obviously thank God for Coach Stanley and finding you, and, you know, you becoming a legend at Northridge and the rest of this country getting a chance to have you play volleyball. But I love that you got to do that. I mean, I've seen you play a lot of sports. You're an unbelievable athlete.
And the story of somebody going from a JC or basketball player, JC only played 1 year. Played volleyball for 1 year, maybe, and tried it in junior college, winds up being an Olympian and a bronze medalist on top of that. Great freaking story.
And a Hall of Famer in his college, you know, both of them. I'm sure you're there in Pierce too, but
such a good story.
you know, just to become, like you said, a hoop player, moving on and becoming just such a great volleyball. There's been a few that have done it, but post what you did it, right? You started it at a little earlier age, playing, but
So
wow.
then your next decision was to go, academics wise, I really want to go to the Harvard of the West Coast, Northridge.
He had to choose between Stanford, Harvard, Princeton, and Yale, and Northridge, and he chose Northridge. Best education there was, and he knew it.
Completely understandable.
right.
Why become a matador?
Yeah, it was, I was still, I think it was a little bit of sort of imposter syndrome, you know, like, I was still so new to the sport, but I still like, you know, like that was when Volleyball magazine was big, and you'd see the Fab 50 and you'd hear all these, you know, big recruits coming out of high school, and we're going and playing at the, you know, at USC and at UCLA. And I started getting recruited really heavily by those schools, you know, by Al and
Marv,
Yoder. Marv
Yoder,
was not. Yeah, Marv did not recruit me. Which I was kind of surprised. You know, I was kind of surprised, and you know, because I loved Pepperdine, and I knew him and Big Daddy were, you know, best friends.
Yeah, buddies.
So, but yeah, I got recruited just a lot of places. I got, you know, a full scholarship offer at USC. And then UCLA wanted, but we've all heard those stories about great players getting lost beyond the other side of the curtain, right? Over at UCLA, and USC was just so good. And I was afraid of kind of being just kind of lost in the shuffle, not sure if I was good. You know, I just still didn't know how good I was. And it was still relatively new. And I knew I was a little bit raw, and I knew I needed to play in order to get better. And I wasn't sure I was going to get the playing time I wanted if I went to one of those schools, and I might kind of get lost in the shuffle. And I knew I'd be kind of big fish, little pond at Northridge, and I was going to get the chance to play. And I knew Coach Campbell, Jeff Campbell was coming, who went on to coach at Northridge, was leaving UCLA to come back, and I was going to get a chance to play with him. And I go, screw it, I'm going to go to Northridge. It was just a little more comfortable. I'd made some friends there in the Valley, and I just go, I'm going to play here. We're going to play against all those same teams. I know I'm going to get the exposure if there was an opportunity ever to play, you know, kind of go beyond.
Right.
So yeah, ended up going to Northridge, and it was a great decision. Obviously, I think it really worked out. Redshirted for a year, got a chance to play, which some of the other schools didn't want me to redshirt. So went and redshirted a year, got a little more experience, and then was able to, you know, play a couple good years there.
Yeah.
And playing for Price, you know, I just saw him last week. I was up there playing a little beer pong, and it was a rough night for me with the legends, but we'll just leave it at that. But, you know, I know how John was back then, and like being young, recruiting you, having you come over, what really sold it? I mean, obviously what you just said, the reasons to get that opportunity, which again, we tell all the recruits today, it's the same as it was back when you played in college, is the right fit. everyone chases different things. And if you can find the right place for you, it doesn't really matter the level. And you said you're playing Division I volleyball at Northridge against UCLA, against USC, against Hawaii, against Pepperdine, against Stanford, against them all. So you're playing them anyways, right? And so what was it like to play for John and have him recruit you at that time?
John was awesome. JP, he's just so easygoing and mellow and likable and just such a good dude. And that was, looking back on it, it's funny you asked that question. Looking back on it, I think that was a big part of it. Yoder was a little bit intimidating. He's pretty straight laced and Al is Al. I mean, he's been a legend, it seems like, his whole life. And John was just kind of easygoing and mellow and just sort of made it comfortable. That was a big factor. Also, Tony Rusin, shout out to Tony, was going to and he was one of my best friends at the time and still is. And he was going to Northridge. And so just all of those sort of factors kind of just made it kind of easy for me, and just comfortable. It was just comfortable. So
well, I'll tell you this, and before you jump in, Sully, your part of it is like, I went on a recruiting trip, and when I met you that night, and I used to do lines my senior year in high school for Northridge, and I was actually the linesman. So not that I gave him a call or two, who would have even thought, but but I was being recruited by a bunch of schools, but I went to a recruiting visit, went to a game, and went to Bob and Matty O's house, and I was sold just like him. Already liked John and JP and the way they were, but just like you said, it was easy and it just felt like home. And that night changed everything for me, because that's where I really decided that I wanted to be a Matador. I mean, I didn't get a chance to play with you there, but I knew that this was the place I wanted to go. And you just echoed almost the same reasons, right? And a little bit different, but it was a big part of it. So I'm glad you had that experience. I mean, the College Inn to, down at the pub on campus. I mean, you had a lot of fun there. So,
well, it's funny, and sorry, I don't mean to jump in, Sully, but I was really proud of you guys, CK, and I like to think that we played a small part because we had a really competitive. I think we were like 2-10 or something like that, goofy, and won that last match against Long Beach, and that kind of.
We always beat Long Beach to end the season. It just happens that way.
Santa Barbara and Long Beach, it seems like.
Always.
But we went 5 with everybody. Like, we went 5 with Stanford. We went 5 with, I mean, it just seemed like we're constantly battling. And I felt like we had some good energy, and I think it gave the vision of some of the young recruits, you and Geeter and Lynch and Matty Younger, who had already been there. But, it kind of, these guys saw this could be a kind of a cool place to play. And sure enough, 4 years later, you guys are playing for a national championship, right? Which we were, I think a lot of the alumni were sort of proud of that. Like,
you should have been. You should have been.
I mean, we weren't a part of it. We didn't do anything.
But you did, though, Bob. I mean, to be honest with you, like,
great foundation.
You did. And before you got there, I mean, John was there, and we can go through all the great guys that we still talk to on the chain. They were a big foundation of it. But that year, when I did line a lot of your games, you did go 5 with all some of the best teams. You just didn't crack it. And, one of the things that I'll never forget, Mooney talked about me wearing the crystal when I first met her. That crystal I bought down the street from Bob's house in San Diego. So our freshman year, and this is why I'm saying this story, is because you are a part of it, Bob. So our freshman year, we go down, we're playing at San Diego State, RIP to their program. Let's bring that back, please. Come on, Hilliard, pull your head out, Hilliard, and get the men's program going.
And Timmons, he's right too.
You got a lot of guys down there and women down there that can coach the men's team. Okay, I digress. Yeah. So we go down there. Of course, we get $5 to go to Sizzler. That's how Northridge did it. We're in PB in Mission Beach, and Bob's down there with the national team. What does he do? He invites a few of us, but most of the team over to his house, and just talks to us about the match and just being a Matador. And like, that mattered. I still remember it. A lot of us still remember it. So even though you weren't on the court specifically, Sammy, you were on the court. And, all of you guys from the Northridge days, just like the Long Beach days, Bear and Sully are watching them Knipe win back to back and playing in national championships and Final Fours every year. They're a huge part of it. That program would not be there without it. So I'll say thank you from all the Matadors in my generation. And, Theo's doing a great job with the younger guys too. And hopefully he'll bring that back to getting to where, we were.
Yeah, crazy that Northridge went in 1993. I think that's what Coley tells us every episode. And then you kids say 368, not the 400.
Yeah.
As Al Skates whips out the 1993 stat sheet right in front of us.
On our pod.
On our
just crushing us.
podcast.
Just like, oh, no, you didn't hit 400. He pulls it down. He goes, no.
We hit about a 375. And Coley's like, no, it was like over 400. Anyway, and he's like, well, let's take a look. And he brings up the freaking stat sheet from 93.
That's Al Skates, though. That's right. How's Al?
That was amazing. So let's go. I think it was probably your last match, right? Against us. I think we were started at Long Beach, right, Bob?
We did, and there was a gas explosion.
Yeah,
like
there
this
was
manhole cover blew in the air. It was
like,
nuts.
where are we going to play? We wanted to play at Marina High School. That's where Al Knipe went to school, right?
Yeah.
And so everybody that doesn't know Bob Samuelson, he not only had a unique look and build, I mean, monster-like, but he had a very unique attacking style. And what I mean by that is usually everybody arches, right, and their feet go back. Bob's knees went to his stomach every time he swung. So you have this big guy coming at you at the net, and his knees, all of a sudden his knees just go, whoa, like it didn't go backwards. And so that's part of your look, but it was the way you played and the way you looked when you swung was really iconic. So what do you remember about that last match? I have a couple memories just because I was able to play in it as a freshman, but yeah, that was a crazy because we should have taken you guys, and all of a sudden we're at Marina High School and you guys beat us.
Yeah. So maybe I should be telling this story, but what the hell, I will. It's,
30 years later, 30.
Yeah, right. So we showed up at the match and a bunch of us drove down. So it was like me, Tony, Coffee. We're in the car together, Neil Kaufman.
Yeah, Neil.
And we drive down, and there was like the gas explosion that happened. And we go, okay, like I get, so they cleared out the gym. They go, there's been an explosion, and all right, I guess we're not playing, right? So we hop in the car, like we hop out, we swing by like a Quickie Mart or something, and we get some beers, and we're just wasting beers.
Why wouldn't you?
Like, but right? I mean, we get. Also, we get a call from JP. He's like, what are you guys do? Where are you? Like, it's fine. What do you mean? Where are we? We're heading home. He goes, we're playing right now. We go, oh my gosh. So we, finish our beers and on the way over. And this was kind of, it was more important for you guys than it was for us.
Yeah,
but,
it was miss out.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
Oh, trust me, I know.
Yeah.
And we took kind of pride in that. Like, at least we'll be a thorn in somebody else's side if nothing else. And I just remember it was a battle, and you guys played great. And I was getting kind of fired up and going into the stands and high-fiving, and just, it was an absolute battle that somehow we were able to squeak out in 5 miraculously, much to Ray's kind of dismay. And, but
we should just called it forfeited. We would have had a forfeit and went to the playoffs, but no.
I know it was. So yeah, that's kind of what I remember. That's about all I remember about it. As we had
I had this open X, and I don't even know if they call it X anymore. No one was up. I had a 40-inch vertical time. I'm up there, and I have this football mind, right? Nobody's up. I'm on an X on a 2. I'm cranking, and I see Gary Resnick.
No, he wasn't there.
Tom Riberich.
Riberich.
Middle back. I'm like, okay, dig this, buddy. And I freaking launched it. Boom, boom. Dug me. I'm like, Deli still tells me to this day, hey, Sully, remember that X that you did against Northridge? I'm like, come on, man. Like, come on. I mean, but that was my mentality. It wasn't like Hilliard going, there's the open floor. Okay, I can just put it there. I was more like, okay, I'm going to attack you because football mentality. Anyway.
Yeah.
So you get done with your Northridge career. Were you invited to go down to the national team? How did that progress?
Yeah. So no, I was not invited to go down to the national team. As you know, USVBA is sort of they have to have open tryouts. I mean, I could try out right now if I wanted to, like my kids could. And so they had an invite tryout for a bunch of the collegiate players. I think there was about 40 of them got invited. Other collegiate players.
You were not invited.
I was not a part of that. I ended up going to an open, just an open tryout. So Tony Roos and I drove up to Stanford, and I tried out there. And then they had another one at Pepperdine that I went and I tried out. And they did all the physical testing, vertical jump, they had to run, they had to do a push-up test, how many push-ups can you do? And then you're supposed to go out and like hit balls. And I'll never forget though. So we had And this was to get to the invite tryout. So they were going to take people from these open tryouts and then join the people that were invited for a bigger tryout.
Okay.
So John Wallace, setter at Santa Barbara, we got put together on kind of the same team. And he looks at me, he's like, Sammy, me and you, are you ready to do this? I'm sending you every ball. And I go, let's go. And he did. He was just feeding me, and I had a good tryout. Got invited down to San Diego for the extended tryout, which was a week-long tryout. We had 5 days. We were in the gym, and there's probably 100 dudes down there, and including the guys who were currently on the national team in the gym. So there's about 120 total. And we tried, and of course they also bring the other coaches in, because you can't evaluate, 2 or 3 coaches can't evaluate 120 guys. So they had other coaches in that was sort of a tryout for them too, right? So they had some of the collegiate coaches and from around the country there, kind of with clipboards and pads, and they want to see how they interact with the athletes. And of course, every time, you crush a jump serve, they're all looking away. And then you spatch a ball their thing. They're like just feverishly scribbling on like, I'm going great, right? So we went through the tryout process. I come back up. It is a Sunday after we finished the tryout on Friday. Monday afternoon, I come back to the apartment. I was living with Tom Riberich at the time, and he just goes, Sammy, there's, back in the days of,
machines.
I don't even know what it's called.
Answering machines. I knew where you were going.
Jingo Netty. And he goes, dude, Jim Coleman, who was the president of the men's team at the time, he goes, Jim Coleman called. They want you to join the national. They want you to come down. I go, and I flipped out. I'm like, you're a jerk, dude. Like, you know how bad I wanted that. And that's not funny. He's like, I swear to, like, here it is. So listen to the voicemail and end up calling back. And he goes, we want you to come down. I go, that's awesome. I go, how many people are coming? He goes, 2. It's you and Brian Ivy. Oh. And I go, well, when do you want me here? And he goes, Tuesday. I go, that's like tomorrow. I can't do it. I go, I have finals. And he goes, well, we're leaving in less than a month on a tour to Russia. And this was Karch and Steve's farewell tour. We're touring the US and we started in Russia, started in Sweden, then went to Russia, played there. And then we came back and we toured through the US. He goes, I think you have a chance to make this tour. So I go, let me go talk to my professor. So I went first thing in the morning, Tuesday morning. And I go, look, told them kind of what was going on. They go, look, I'm sorry, we can't we're going to have to fail you if you leave. I go, okay. And I go, okay, well, just so you know, I didn't just flake out. I can always go back to school. This is a once in a lifetime. So I went, talked to my professors, told them I'd be back one day, kind of packed my duffel bag and headed down. And literally less than a month later was playing in Moscow. Wow. And then on the tail end of that trip, we ended up playing in the Forum. And I ended up it was me, Timmons, and Mark Arnold made the inside cover of Sports Illustrated. Oh, yeah. Nice. With like kind of a cool photo. Yeah. It was totally surreal. I was, just left the Ridge and, freaking a month later, I'm on the inside cover of SI. I'm going, this is wild.
Wow. See, if you choose Long Beach, they give you the grades. It's no problem. I mean, it's a tough academic ruler at Northridge. They just don't do that for everyone.
You have to go to class as a pay for the credits. That's the rule.
What an unbelievable story, Sammy. I mean, like I've known most of this, but just to hear it, like to go down and drive to Stanford with Tony, I'm sure that was a really quiet and mellow drive up at Stanford, and then to go to Pepperdine and get one of the two with Brian, who's not a bad player, and then you go down there and you make the decision of a lifetime, and like you said, a few weeks later you're in the cover of Sports Illustrated, or in the center of Sports Illustrated. Congrats to you. Like you said, congrats. That's awesome.
Funny story. That was a wild trip. So that was my first 6 months on the team were Karch's last 6 months, Karch and Steve. And so Bill Neville, the coach at the time, was really big on would pair up the roommates, and he'd always put a veteran with kind of a younger guy, and then we'd mix it up every new city you went. So my first trip, we're in Stockholm, Sweden. We fly into Stockholm, which also they always told me how awful it was to fly internationally because, they just get the cheapest flights. We're back. And this is when they had smoking sections and crap like that. Yeah. One of the dudes on the team, I don't know who it was, but his mom worked for United, and we were flying SAS, Scandinavian Air Service. So somehow they were like a sister airline, and his mom worked there. We flew first class in the upper deck to Stockholm, right? I'm going,
That's right.
so I had one of those captain's chairs in the middle of the thing. We had like Swedish supermodels. They're bringing like scoops of like hot rolls, pictures. I'm just going, I can't eat another bite. I'm stuffed. She's tucking me in. We get into Stockholm, and they room me with Karch for my first road trip.
Wow.
And the windows were open in our hotel because we're like cooling off. 10 p.m. Karchi has his watch out. He's like, yeah, nighttime, Sammy, 10 p.m. Let's close them up. And I go, okay. And he's like, we got to get these, we got to get these bugs. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, there's some kind of gnats in here. We got to get them. And I'm like, he's like, this is some kind of hazing or something.
Yeah.
He was dead serious. I'm jumping around in my boxers, trying to squish gnats
Because Karch told you had to.
Yeah, dude. And he was good at it too, by the way. He had him like, I got one, he got like 11, and then the next thing I went and I roomed with Timmons, and Timmons was the complete he was still. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. I still love I love Red to death. Red and Hilly, Hilly was my roommate for a long time, for 2-3 years down in San Diego. So I love Hilly to death, and him and Red kind of coaching together whenever they come to town to play state or recruiting or so. It's great to see them. But yeah, that was my first road trip with Karchi, then Steve, as my roommates. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
That's amazing. I mean, you think about that. That's who we looked up to in college, right? And then all of a sudden you're their roommates.
Yeah. I mean, I still look up to Karch. He was Timmons I looked at as like kind of like a teammate. Karch, I still was, I don't know. It was just different. Yeah.
He was the GOAT, right?
It was
and
different.
according to Al, what, they have a century team, and he was the first one on the international, the best player ever to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark
And then
said
you're
it
rooming
too.
with him. Right out of Northridge, you're rooming with him. Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great
So
story.
on top of this, when you got down to the USA team, you got to do all of those things. How was it being a kid from Westchester that played hoop, went and played for Big Daddy at Pierce, played for JP at CSUN, and now all of a sudden you're putting on those 3 letters, the country you're playing in, you get to wear USA. How was that for you to put it on for the first time?
It was amazing. It was an unbelievable experience, especially that first kind of. There are 2 sort of things that really stand out. There was the first trip I ever went on, and getting like a jersey and it has your name sewn on it. And it has USA on the front. I mean, this wasn't like a long sleeve Mizuno kind of thing with a big dirt stain on it from Northridge from diving. So, and I mean, and you got like a USA suitcase, and you had all the gear, and just that was next level. Just cool. I mean, I was blown away by how cool it is. And then the other kind of really stand out, of course, winning the medal was real, but the people always ask kind of, question I always get is what's your most memorable moment from the Olympics?
Yeah.
And don't forget, like, just the opening ceremonies, that was, the year that the Dream Team came. So Red was married to Jeannie Buss at the time.
Yeah.
So he knew kind of Irvin. And so we marched with the Dream Team, waited in the tunnel for us. And, we're kind of walking out with Stockton and Charles, and who ended up becoming a friend, and kind of walking out with those guys, and coming into that stadium with all the, different nations represented, and all the flags and the pageantry and the crowds and stuff. That's when it really hit me. Like, oh my gosh, this is kind of what I've been working for. And it was just a surreal moment. Yeah. So
Cool. Hey, so I mentioned before your iconic look. Can you tell us about why you don't have hair on the top of your head? What is that condition?
Sure. It's called alopecia. I got it when when I first left high school and I went to Pierce. I was a week into school, and all of a sudden I was taking a shower, and I felt like just my hair started coming out, and it started coming out in patches and more patches. And pretty soon it was just kind of coming out, and I shaved it. And I used to have like kind of a couple little patches. CK, you might remember I had this one little arrow.
I remember that actually.
I'd shave like a little arrow.
I remember that.
I don't know. And then finally, even that one little patch gone, and I just haven't had hair since. Actually, I did have it. I went there was a time at Northridge where I went and I was doing like this therapy where you take basically you sat in a phone booth or like a suntan booth. Like you took these pills that made your skin photo kind of sensitive, and you go in like this, and my hair grew back. It was like jet black, and I got super tan. I'm going, yeah, this is like kind of gnarly, right? I mean, like, and then I ended up making the national team, and I couldn't I couldn't go to the therapy and stuff. And so it all kind of fell out again. Then I was like, I don't even care. I don't.
Yeah. I didn't know if you were
Kind of
born
pain
with
in
it.
the ass.
Yeah. I didn't know if you were born with it. It just kind of was, but it like, was it in your
came
body
up-
the whole time?
It is. It's an autoimmune condition.
Oh,
So
okay.
essentially, like, yeah, but just my body just attacks my hair follicles for
Interesting.
whatever reason. So, in a way, it's kind of cool. Like, I rarely get sick. When I do get sick, like, I just have a hyperimmune system. When I get sick, I'm down. But I rarely kind of get sick. But, the downside is I do have like, it just attacks my hair too. Like, it's some foreign invader.
I mean,
But,
because you see it lately, right? Just because of social media and all that kind of stuff. But when you show up in the gym, you're like, oh, this guy's a monster. Look, I mean, just look at him, and then you learn, oh, he has a condition. But that was mostly for our fans to go, oh, that's just what you have, and you've lived with it all your life. But
yeah.
Can you go into a little bit about the whole Olympic controversy with, getting those yellow cards and why you got those yellow cards, and then kind of what happened with that whole scenario?
Sure.
It was worldwide news.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rally.
Yeah, and we're talking about your hair, so why not? It's perfect time.
Yeah, right.
Great job, Bear.
Nice segue.
Every once in a while.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, so I mean, as I alluded to earlier, I used to, I was, not that this makes a difference, but when I played at Westchester High School, we played Crenshaw, we played Dorsey, we played we played in kind of a tough league.
Sure, absolutely.
I was the and not that this matters, but I was the only white guy on my team, and like we used to, it was kind of hardcore inner city basketball. That runs very contrary to the mentality that most volleyball players have. I ran a little bit hot. I used to get a little chirpy. And this carried over, and I'm glad I was, because I feel like that it motivated me. It was just how I fired up and played. It was hard for me to play quiet and just like, hey, good job. And I used to look for reasons to sort of like, oh, that guy looked at me, just something to piss me off in order to kind of like, some people played worse angry. I played a little bit better with something that I wanted to show some
Chip on your shoulder.
Guilty.
Yeah. So when we were playing internationally, I heard, in the previous couple of years leading up to the Olympics, I had developed a little bit of a reputation for being kind of a hothead. Okay. And, there's a lot of politics involved with international volleyball. You see a lot of the same international officials, and, there's certain teams don't like each other. Certain countries don't like each other. So we're playing Japan in our first round, Brian Ivey. I was one of the reasons I got chosen for the national team was, or for the Olympic team, was because I could kind of fill two roles. I could play, I was a backup middle, and I was also sort of a backup opposite as well. Ivy was just wiping up the floor because, God forbid that the match took 45 seconds longer for player safety, and you couldn't, have a kid come out with a towel. We had to wear these little towels on our backs to wipe up a wet spot. Ivy I always give him credit. He's so fragile. My gosh, he's wiping up a wet spot. Stands up and tears his knee, tore his meniscus in his knee, wiping up a wet spot. He's soft. So,
you hear that, BI? BI's soft.
the only reason I say this is because he always likes to call me his backup. Like, here's my backup, bro. And to which I respond, thank God I was there, because you're like, dude, you're just made of actual glass. But so he tears his knee. He has to come out, and it's the second set. And we're struggling against Japan. I come out. We're going. I don't even know when it happened, but I ended up getting a yellow card in the match. We had two officials. One was the down judge, was this Brazilian guy who did not like us, me in particular. And the up judge was this gentleman by the name of Samadov, who was a Russian and was kind of mellow. He was kind of like, we always thought he was a pretty decent official. We're playing, and this was obviously back in old school scoring, and we're in the 5th set. It's 13 all. Japan is serving. They serve, we hit a ball, they go to turn it, right? They dig it, they set Nakagaichi, who's their big opposite. I'm playing left back defense. He comes down the line. I have my left foot on the line, right? Anything outside my body line's out. Anything inside, I scoop. Comes, it's like a foot out of bounds. I jump, I go out. The line judge is kind of right behind me, and he jumps out of the way. Ball's coming in hot from Nakagaichi. It's pretty hard, right?
Yeah.
He reflexively kind of goes and calls in, and I lose my, and it was pretty mild for me. I just kind of jump. I go, ball's out by a foot. Nothing, ridiculous. I immediately calm down. So that gives them 14 because they were serving the ball. The Brazilian judge sees that I flipped out, and he pulls out the yellow card, and he goes, yellow card, and he's pointing at the up ref, Samadov. Samadov kind of goes, okay, and starts to pull out his yellow, and he goes, on who? He goes, number 9. You could see the wheels spinning in Samadov's head. 2 yellow cards equates a red. A red card is a point. They just got 14. You could just see.
He's like, I'm not doing this.
I'm not, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, and he tucks it away, and he goes, no, and he waves him off. Brazilian goes, yellow card, and he goes, no, play on. We end up siding out. We end up winning in 5. Immediately after, and I don't know if this actually took place or not, but Japan was also very big they sponsored a lot of international events, World Cups, World Championships were over there. Matsudaira was their head of delegation. Him and Ruben Acosta, who was the president of FIVB at the time, were pretty tight. Apparently there were some conversations, like if you were to even though the rules of the protest, once you sign the score sheet, game's over, you have to sign you have to file a protest at the time happens. They sign the score sheet, it's done, right? They end up protesting, they take it to a vote, they overturn the match. We find out the next morning that they've done this. A lot of conversation in the team. This is absolute garbage. What do we do? Should we wear a patch on our uniforms? You can't do that because there's protocols and what you can and can't wear. Should we boycott a match? No, that's just hurting ourselves.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm a wreck, right? I can't believe that, how this has turned, what turned out to be a dream is quickly becoming a nightmare. I'm going, I can't believe I lost this match for my team, my teammates, my coaches, my country. I'm beside myself. Steve pulls me aside. We're just walking to the dining hall, and he goes, how are you feeling? I go, not good, surprising. And he was like, look, we've got your back. We support you. He's going, I need you to snap out of this. Like now, Brian's down. We need you. Like, you've got to pick it up. Like, you're our guy now. Let's go. Like, snap out of it. Which meant a lot. So we're continuing to try and figure out what we're going to do to sort of show a sign of protest. Steve was the one who came up, we should shave our heads. And he had that iconic flat top.
Red sand.
Yeah. And everyone's going, yeah, that's real funny, Steve. Like, okay, where did you go first?
Right.
And he goes, okay, I'll do it. And so, there's the video you can find online. They go, Sammy, you should be the one. You should shave his head. And I go, wow. I got it. So we had the clippers and we sat down. We're all in the room, and I'm going, where do I start? Do I start by? I go, no, I got to go right to where there's no going back. So I just went right down the
center, baby.
Yeah.
Reverse mohawk.
Yeah. And everyone kind of followed suit. And then the next day we played Canada, and that's when kind of, everyone goes, oh my gosh. And that's when the story kind of really took hold. And we struggled the first couple matches, kind of found our sea legs there, and ended up having a pretty decent tournament until we were into that buzzsaw of Brazil, who just freight trained through that tournament, who we had kicked the crap out of them like 3 or 4 months prior. And they started to find that they were the first ones to really go fast with the offense. And they're still figuring it out during World League, and they hit their rhythm, and they were just shooting it to the pins and going quick. And just like I said, I think they only lost a couple of sets in that entire freaking Olympics. They went right through it. Yeah.
You know what couple things about that story that's amazing. One is it just talks about the brethren and leadership, right? Like, you're in the Olympics, you're not at a little JO tournament or a little fun friend tournament, USVB. You got one of the iconic leaders that have been there. They needed you, and he knew it, they knew it. and they came to you, he came to you to ease your mind. And then the team had your back. And that's such a great story, as these guys said. It's iconic. Everyone knew what was going on back in, '92 when we were watching the Olympics. But that's what gets me the most, and that's what I love about all of you guys. Like Sammy, you and I have been partners on the beach. These guys and I played, Paul Mitchell together. It's that friendship, that team, and that brotherhood that you have that you'll never forget. And that's pretty unbelievable that he was there to help you with that. And you were able to come back and play so great and help us, get to a bronze medal. The other thing that I want to say that's different, because it couldn't have happened back then, but technology would have solved that.
Yeah.
Right. Because they'd have been able to say if it was in or out on the line. You probably wouldn't even, one yell, you would have turned and they'd have been able to see that. So it's interesting to see how we grew up playing with the game itself, besides which I'm going to get to in a minute, ask you questions about the difference of the game. But it would never have happened back then, now as it would then, because they can solve that with regards to the lines. But what a great story, and what a great story for the masses here to listen to. Is that's why you play team sports, right? Yep, you play those. These guys are still, a lot of you, your best friends, right? And you got the chance to travel, which a lot of people don't get the chance to do that, like travel the world and do things. But you got to have a real moment, and a moment that mattered for you, for your team. And it just happened to be that team was the Olympic team, and you were representing more than just the team. And you and that team did it. You guys, you played unbelievable, and you won a medal. And like you said, Brazil was the best in that tournament. It was hard to beat them at all. So
yeah, they certainly were. Yeah.
Did you ever want to travel when you were high school, even at Pierce, even at Northridge, like you did in the Olympics? Like, was that in your wheelhouse? Was that part of your family? Like, you know what I mean? Because for me, I just wanted to see every every 50 states is what my goal was. I didn't really want to go out of the country, but then I was kind of forced to. Now I want to go everywhere. I want to experience so many cultures. It was such a good experience for me, and I'm sharing that with my kids. How is that for you? And I'm assuming you're sharing that with your kids as well, saying just kind of go and venture out in the world.
Yeah, 100%. And I loved, it was funny. I never dreamed of traveling. It was just not something. I had a little bit of a different kind of childhood and stuff, so it was not something I was ever exposed to or could have been.
So can I ask you what that means?
Well, my folks split up when I was young. I came to move with my dad in high school, through
So it wasn't a thing.
No, it was not a thing. I was just looking for kind of a roof over my head. I was homeless when I was 16. I was not even thinking about traveling. I was just looking to find kind of an apartment to live in.
Right.
So when I got that opportunity, it was very different than a lot of the other guys on the team. I had never been anywhere, and so I ate it up when we went to other countries. I mean, I went to the museums and I experienced the food and we talked to locals on the street, and just I ate, and I still love it to this day. That's one of the things I miss about playing, or like you were mentioning, Coley, the teammates and the brotherhood and traveling to these places was just, it was awesome. It was a phenomenal experience.
How was living in Japan? Because we're talking international stuff. I mean, you're a huge guy, okay? I mean, you had to stick out like a sore thumb. No offense. I'm sure they treated you like almost a god or something over there. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Japan is awesome. I loved it. Like I've always said, I would go back in a heartbeat if I had a job where, I didn't have to speak fluent Japanese. I love the food. I love the people. I love the culture. It was like super small. It's a different way of living over there. But it was, to your point, they treated me very, very well. I just loved everything about it. My boys actually went this past year over the winter. They went with about 10 of their buddies, and they all went over and spent 11 days and ran around Japan. They went and checked out the old team I used to play for, the Suntory Sunbirds. They went and checked out a Suntory match.
Wow.
Yeah. And
how old are they?
They're 23. I have triplet boys. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, so my son's really into Japan. I mean, he's a gamer and anime and all that kind of stuff, and he's 21, and he's saving his money just to go. He cannot wait. He wants to move there. I'm like, well, first you got to visit big guy. But that's good to hear you're there with 23. That's good. I'll pass it on.
Yeah, they had a blast. One of my boys is like, I could live here. He's trying to, they all loved it.
Find the job, right? How can I get over to Japan?
Exactly. Which a lot of people go over there and teach English. There was a whole little expat community of English teachers over there that I used to hang out with when I lived over there. So yeah,
I don't know if I would do well teaching English. Trim, raging,
Smoke
gnarly, smoke show. Like that might not go over so well in Japan. It might. And then again, maybe it will. I'm not sure.
yeah.
Unbelievable.
Well, that would eliminate the gift of gab, though. Just saying. Well,
Yeah, I would do my best to learn a little bit. So
You're right.
you coach now both boys and girls in the high school level or the travel ball level, whatever it is. You played at an international level. You mentioned something that I was going to ask you, and it's great. You said Brazil in that Olympics probably didn't change it, but was speeding it up a lot faster than everyone else was, and that was newer to the game. What is your take? Obviously, the game's so much faster today, but the game then, like when we played, to the game today, what do you, besides, I'm not going to let you say speed because it's really fast. Besides that, what do you see the big difference?
The size and athleticism, some of these kids are so good and so big and so long and can, I think that's the biggest difference that I notice, obviously the speed, but just how good these kids are at a young age is really, it's fun to watch. I'm not one of those old heads of, back when I played, and there are certain differences, that I think, but some of these kids are so freaky athletic and just big and get so, I trip out on seeing some of these photos of kids blocking, Cooper Robinson, who I coached when he was 15. And I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, like, where do you
They're just straight over.
Yeah. And Klein, who my boys went to high school with. And they're just freaky athletic and how big and long they are. And I think that's the biggest difference I noticed. Like,
we're getting a lot of those basketball players like yourself back in the day, right? You were rare in terms of switching over from basketball that late. We're getting a lot of those guys that don't want to get elbowed down below. You know what? They'd rather get out there and use their athleticism, do something else, and volleyball's right in their wheelhouse. And that's where we have a little bit of pain right now with it not growing at a Division I level, and even some getting rid of it. I mean, we experienced that. Northridge experienced it. San Diego State experienced it. UOP experienced. Stanford, out of all people, experienced it too. So, but yeah, I think we're getting some of those basketball players.
Yeah.
Well, I also think I'm not going to go back, but it's the being specialized. Sammy was playing hoops.
Yeah.
Sully, you and I were playing football. Bear was playing hoops, doing a bunch of stuff. A lot of these kids are now playing club volleyball at 10 and 11 years old. And on top of being bigger, your kids, my kids, 6'7", 6'8", like on top of being bigger, stronger, understanding how to train better, eat better, all of those things, they're also competing and playing that sport at such a younger age and not playing other ones, which again is great. Again, we're going to talk the positive of it, which makes these volleyball players, like you said, go to these college games, high school games, and you're just like, wow, like these young men and women are just incredible. And they're so big and they're, like you said, so athletic, flying around. Like the women's game, watch a college game, they're all 6'8". Like, you know what I mean? It's just incredible.
Yeah. I was going to say, I did a stint in Austin here last year and was down there. Jarrett, who I know Coley very well, and is a friend of mine as well. So, I was hanging out with Jarrett, and I went to a bunch of the UT games, and to watch, Maddie Skinner, like, I mean, the whole team, but holy cow.
Yeah.
Like they are like,
amazing.
I love the women's game is super fun to watch now.
Yeah, we say that all the time.
That level of athleticism that these girls are bringing is just, it's incredible. And they're big and just freaky athletic and
physical,
it's really fun to watch.
Really fun to watch. Really fun to watch.
They are setting the pipes now. There was really no back row back in the day, and they're even trying the bigs, and now they're really excited. They're hitting the D's like we all did, right? Oh yeah, the right side. I mean, it's the evolution of the game too, along with their athleticism. So we talk about it, and Sammy, all the time, that this last tournament this past year was amazing from beginning to end.
Oh my gosh.
And that Final Four was so fun to watch.
Yeah. It's my second favorite college tournament behind March Madness now. I love watching the women's, the collegiate playoffs are
Coley brings up the Alabama watching football, right? Go ahead, Coley.
Yeah, I mean, I say this all the time, but, obviously Ferb's a good friend of both of ours, and Charlie's, setting for Wisconsin, so we're trying to watch every game we can, and it's a Saturday, and I'm sitting on my couch, and Alabama's playing football on NBC or ABC, and on the other channel, on NBC or ABC, I can't remember, I should get that straight, is Charlie and Wisconsin playing at Purdue in front of 14,000 people. I mean, Purdue is sold out, and Jake played there in that March Madness run, so I've been to that arena. It is big, and it was sold out for a Saturday Big Ten volleyball game, and going head to head against Alabama football is incredible.
And I love seeing it too. I love seeing that one of those women's sports like really get its due, and rightfully so. I think it's been awesome to see the popularity, and yeah, those girls are good, man.
Yeah, they really are.
We just saw what Ohio State, I know with the whole NIL and everything, just kind of like the settlement just kind of playing out a little bit. Basically, Ohio State put their arms around football, both basketballs and women's volleyball.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal with all those sports at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Plugging in women's volleyball, that should speak volumes to everybody across the country.
Yeah.
Really cool to watch.
You touched about it a little bit, growing up kind of in a situation, my parents divorced when I was 1 kind of thing. Is it true that you were born in New York?
I was.
And so then how did you get out to California being on the East Coast? And was it because of the divorce, or how'd that all come about?
So I was born in Port Jefferson, Long Island, lived out there, wouldn't see my dad much, would kind of see him every now and then, on maybe for a few days or something like that. He ended up, when I was 11, he had moved to Southern California, and somehow he talked my mom into letting me come out. And I spent and at this time, my mom had moved to, I was living in Kansas at the time.
Okay.
And I hated it. Even at that age, I was going, this place sucks. I was just so bummed on it. And my dad moved to Laguna Beach, and he lived right above Main Beach. I was just down there last weekend, had an apartment that is still there. I mean, literally overlooks the basketball courts.
Yep.
And so I would go down there, and he was just like, he was doing his thing. He was kind of working stuff. He'd give me $20 for the day. There was a Swenson's ice cream. Went out, he taught me how to body surf. I would go and I would just kind of play basketball, with like kind of some of the
Tough
people
place to
down
play.
there.
That
Main
still
Beach
is
there.
that Main
Yeah.
Beach.
Oh yeah,
Riddle
yeah.
Beach
And I
down
mean,
there.
I wouldn't play in any of those games. I was like, but I just kind of shoot around and
Yeah.
body surf and go check out a movie and eat ice cream and just kind of hang
life.
out.
That's great for the spot.
And
Wow.
I was down there for like 2.5 months, and I go, I love it here. I never felt more at home. I never felt more comfortable.
Cool.
I went back home, and I'm just like, Mom, I'm going to move it. I'm moving with Dad. I'm going out there. And at the time, the next year when I came back, he had moved to Playa del Rey. And so that's how I kind of got up in the South Bay and Westchester High. Yeah.
Hey, top 3 international places that you would tell people, like if people are like, gosh, on my next trip, I want to go. What would you tell people would be the top 3 places that you've been to that you would recommend?
Yeah, great question. I love Japan, as I alluded to earlier. I think Japan's the one place where you go, I'm really in a foreign country. You know what I mean? Like, just like you go to Italy, which is probably also on there. I'm thinking about the other 2. But at least like the characters in the alphabet are the same, and you can sort of decipher some of the words, and
Japan.
it's not like that in Japan. The language is completely different. The letters are completely, you're really in a different place.
And the history.
I'm a big fan of, I like kind of the Scandinavian countries. I love Denmark. I love like Belgium and Holland and Sweden and kind of just that little kind of pocket over there.
Yeah.
Really a fan of. And then I have some German heritage, and so I love Germany too. I had a chance recently to go to Berlin, and I just absolutely love Berlin and some of the history and stuff there. So, but yeah, and then France and Italy are glorious too.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. Paris is really.
Oh, it's wonderful.
We went there with the national team and going, God, this is the most romantic. Like it was, and I'm going, it sucks that I'm here with you 12 idiots, but but it was just an amazing city.
Yeah, we lived in Germany, and we weren't too far from France, and this is when they were saying they were kind of boycotting France, right? Don't eat French fries here. Back we were there. They treated us so great, and they were so. I mean, this is when they started getting the machine guns around the Eiffel Tower, right? And all. Yeah. But they loved us. They loved us, and so France was one of my favorites. German people treat us fantastic too. My oldest is godfather. He just bought a place in Italy, so I haven't been to Italy or Spain yet. So I will be going soon.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Japan, that's awesome.
You know,
Yeah.
I played in France, and it was a culture shock for me, not knowing a language or whatever. And when you were in Japan, that was like pre-internet. How did you deal with the language barrier?
Yeah, so it's funny. I went and I knew I was going, and so I took about 6 months of Japanese lessons.
Okay.
And then when I got there, and I always use this it's analogous to a lot of different situations in life. I studied for 6 months. I learned more in the 2 weeks I was on the ground.
sure.
Right.
Go to the restaurants and
Yeah.
and just hearing how people actually speak it and kind of different. And I learned enough to kind of get, find my way. We had a translator for the team, so I could understand exactly what the coach was saying at the group events. But I'd go out for my own and had, friends come visit and stuff. And I could get around. I could order food, get a taxi, ask directions, kind of at least conversational Japanese.
And how long were you there?
3 years.
Oh, 3 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you use your Japanese at all anymore?
Not so much. I wish there was an opportunity to use it more. I keep, kind of telling myself I want to get back up to, kind of start studying it again and kind of brush up on it. But it's so infrequently used unless you're working for one of the casinos or something in some kind of capacity. There's no, I'm in real estate now. So, I mean, I guess there's kind of some, maybe some usage, but it's pretty few, just when I go to a restaurant or something that I would be able to use it. Yeah.
So you mentioned college, obviously the Long Beach State match is probably your highlight. I'm just kidding. I would love to get maybe one or two of your, besides maybe the bronze medal match, but two of your best matches of all time that you played. And it could be just a friendly in Finland. I'd love to hear maybe two or three of your top internationals, and then just overall in general, maybe your top 3 or 5 best volleyball moments of playing the game.
I think in terms of one of the memorable ones, we played Spain in the Olympics in Spain, and they put us in this little bandbox with no air conditioning. It was freaking hot as can be, and the Spaniards were on top of us, and they played really well. We ended up winning in 5. It was my birthday. I went on, I think I had something like 30 kills or something like that. We ended up squeaking out a 5-setter. That was a pretty special match. We played when I was playing in Japan, we played in this giant domed arena, and we ended up playing for the championship, and they had a couple of their guys on their team were throwing up sky balls into the lights. And our guys were like trying to pass it right on the net. They're overpassing, and we ended up losing the first 2. And I was like, I lost my mind. I'm like, just put it on the 10-foot line. And Cole, you've had these, just all of a sudden kind of catch a heater or something. Sully, Bear, I'm sure you guys have too. You're just, it doesn't matter. Just give me the ball. It's a kill. I ended up having 74 kills on 105 sets. I was so exhausted at the time. I was like going, they just set me. I go, just pass it 10-foot line, set me. I got this. I was about ready to turn and hit it back at my setter at the end of the match, so I was exhausted.
Well, and that wouldn't happen anymore because of the way they score, right? So that's what's crazy. I mean, 100 swings in a match is unbelievable.
Good point.
Yeah. And then, gosh, I would have to say that, that bronze medal match, we beat Cuba in 4. It was kind of special for a couple of reasons. Number one, Ivy had kind of come back in because his knee had sort of unswelled enough to where the cartilage floated out. And so he was starting, and I was kind of, back on the bench. Steve, who had been having a great tournament, just, you could see he ran out of gas, and he kept going over on the Ds. We were down. Down in the second set. We lost the first one. We were down in the second. Steve was not playing his best volleyball. And I ended up getting subbed in for Steve Timmons. I replaced Steve Timmons. We were down, I think it was 7-4 in the second set, and came back, and I felt like I played pretty well. We ended up rallying and beating Cuba in 4, and we hadn't beaten them in probably 3 years at this point. I mean, they had our number. So just, not only winning the match, but also kind of subbing in for someone who I really looked up to, and one of the greatest players of all time, right? And it wasn't necessarily passing of the torch, but it was just really cool to get subbed in for him and to play well, and for us to win the match and win a bronze medal. And those are
D red, right? Wasn't that your call? The D was a red.
No, the red was the front row. It was just
row,
that
like
fast
five,
five.
yeah.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
really fast five. Yeah,
Those are unbelievable. Those are 3 matches you just gave us that are just, I mean, storybook, right? Like it's
Yeah.
what you dream about as a kid. Oh, you're in the medal match in the Olympics. You've given your whole life to want to play, and they sub you in and for a legend, and you come in and play great, and you guys win. Like that's every kid's dream, and you got to live it, and we got to live it through you. It's been such a fun journey to watch you all these years, and just also what a great man you are. I love you, Bob, and you know that. So it's just that's awesome to share that. And as I said from the beginning, and we keep going, is the biggest reason why I wanted to do this with these guys was to tell stories. We can sit here and talk about stats and we won a game here, but it's the stories that encapsulate what volleyball really is. I mean, I could tell a couple of stories when you and I played in Chicago. Probably shouldn't talk about those, right? Probably shouldn't tell those stories. I mean, all the stories from the Ridge, just from knowing you when you were there before me and being there, and all the stories we have. That's what makes, for me, this podcast so great, and bringing friends as well as just legends like you on here to tell stories. So give me
to have beers before you played us.
and beat them.
That's a story right there. I'm glad we encapsulated on this podcast because I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Why do you think they calmed down and were so less stressed?
Right. I know.
They were
So loose on the other side because we just okay. So it's been how many years? We don't need to say it, but yeah, we just figured you guys were loose because you had nothing. You had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the lose. Hey, we're gonna knock you
some of that too.
Oh no, there was extra. There was extra in the bloodstream.
And they had more beers in the car that they wanted to finish, so they needed to get through that match quick.
Before they warmed up. Yeah.
And by the way, Sully, I don't know if this is true or not, but there were rumors that that Ray was kind of pissed. He got word of the fact that we were, had kind of some beers before the match, ended up calling the league going, complaining, and they're going, well, so you lost to a 2-10, drunk team, and it's again really kind of like, I'm not sure what you want us to do. Like he's like, yeah, maybe nothing.
Ray.
Oh, Ray, I love Ray Rattel.
That is awesome. Hey, so guys, we've been on here definitely over an hour. I know that before we came on, we had a couple of ideas what we were going to talk to Sammy about, and we did. We'd love to have you come back, Bob. I just think we're scratching the surface. I think Coley's right about there's more stories within the stories, and we're getting a little bit looser on the stories to just let it fly, which is good. But guys, if you guys don't have anything else, I'd love to say I truly appreciate you taking the time, man. This was such a great pod for us. And to talk to somebody that, I was able to get to play across the net and watch him on the big screen in '92 and bringing it home for the USA for a bronze medal was super special. So, again, for me, it was a treat. So thanks, Bob. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate what you guys are doing. I love seeing some of the guests, and it was an honor to be here, especially seeing some of the amazing folks that you've had before me. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, you fit right in there, Sammy. You're up there with everyone, and taking the time to after golfing with your boys to sit down and talk to us. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. And for everyone else, make sure you subscribe and you always set the pipe. And let me tell you, this kid right here could hit the pipe. Yeah, he could hit the D too. We could pretty much
in the pipe, baby. 7-4.
Yeah, 74 kills on over 100 attempts. The only one I know who would possibly do that is Hilliard. Right? Hilliard probably swung like that in college all the time. I mean. But the fact that if anyone's listening, all these young kids listening, imagine you guys get 30 attempts, you get 15 kills, you're super excited. Like he swung at over 100 balls and put 74 of them down. That's unbelievable.
Clip. That's not a 368. That's a 700. Yeah.
Believe me, if Skates knew this was happening, he would have probably pulled
he would have found
the stat sheet from Japan, would have called someone he knew and said, wait, no, Sammy only hit 682, not 700. So good. But Bob, thanks so much. Really appreciate you for coming on.
Thanks again, you guys.
Always looked up to you, and you're a special guy on and off the court, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Bear. It was great seeing you a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's always good seeing you, man.
Likewise.
Always good seeing you.